Good morning, South Beach.
What's up, everybody? You see us outside on the street here, outside the world famous Fifth Street Gym. I'm Pat Healy here with Dino Spencer. How's it going, man?
Super good.
Great. So we had some awesome fights last night. UFC, boxing, Edgar Berlanga moving on to 17-0. But before we talk about all that, I wanted you to touch on the recent Triller event and your experience at the event and what you thought of it.
I thought it was an unbelievable experience. It was a lot of production, which means they did it. They spent a lot of money. They took care of the fighters. Peter Khan is running the boxing part of it, and this guy's gonna be the king of boxing before it's all said and done. He was just really conscious of everyone's weight and making sure that everyone got food and everyone got transportation, and he took care of the fighters as if everybody was a world champion.
And what I thought about the event as well, which was really interesting, is like the amount of money they're pouring in to the production, the shows, the different music performances. What'd you feel in terms of like the flow of the event? I know it was probably different for the viewers than it was for you guys who were at the event, but was it a typical pace? Was it a little slow?
It was totally different. It was like filming a TV show. Cut, and then they go on to the next thing, and the break in between could be a half an hour. It was not anything like a regular boxing. And the issue is, let's be honest, regular boxing doesn't do the numbers that it used to do. We're not Jack Dempsey with 100,000 people in the audience anymore. Yeah. So they have to be creative. And they're getting fans that are Justin Bieber fans and Jake Paul fans and Ice Cube fans and every different type of people that are all essentially watching boxing still. So as much as people want to complain, oh, this is terrible, look how things have gone, stop it. They've done worse things. Listen, the first 20 years of boxing, they wouldn't even let black guys fight. They were the best fighters in the world. They wouldn't even compete. So what are you talking about? It's always been show business. It's always been who the crowd's going to pay to see. And they're doing it a different way. It doesn't make it right or wrong. But if these fighters can make a living at fighting, because that's what it is, prize fighting, they can get the prize, then that works out for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting format they got going. Jake Paul is obviously kind of marketed himself as the villain, and people want to see him lose, so people are going to tune in to see that. But a guy, training out of Fifth Street Gym that was on the card that night, Joe Fournier, he's looking to get that fight versus Jake Paul. Do you think that's something that could be on the horizon, and maybe how do you see that going?
I think it's totally reasonable. Joe's a little old for him, but Joe's got a little more experience. So, you work all, it all works out. Everyone's giving Jake a hard time about how he's fighting these inexperienced people. But who did Mike Tyson fight for his third fight? I don't know. Do you? Who did Jake LaMotta fight for his third fight? Who did, everybody? Who did Ray Mancini fight for his third fight? These guys all go on to become world champions. They're just getting experience. He's just getting his feet wet. And those guys typically have amateur backgrounds. He didn't have an amateur background. He's learning on the job. So I think that a 38-year-old Joe Fournier with a few more fights in him is a totally reasonable fight for both of them. I'd love to see it happen. But all people always want to criticize. They want to sit on their couch and criticize fighters. Get in the ring. Just spar once before you talk all this nonsense.
Yeah, and that is the one thing I will say is, at first, I will be honest, I didn't really love the whole event and not super. I didn't really understand what Jake Paul is doing, but now, it makes a lot of sense. He's making a ton of money. He does seem to be taking it seriously. And it seems at this point now, after fighting Ben Askren, that the fans and people are really calling for him to fight someone who is a striker, and at some point he's going to have to step up his competition. So like you said, he's early in the game, and sooner than later he's going to have to fight somebody.
It always comes out in the wash. It always does. Every time you take it, you're like, oh, they carried that guy. Okay, they carried him, then he fought for the title and got the shit kicked out of him. So it always going to come out. You're not going to go your whole career and never have to fight somebody. So eventually everyone's going to get to see him fight someone that you on your couch deem good enough, and you'll see how he does. And eventually everybody, except for, Rocky Marciano and Mayweather, everybody fights someone that's better than them and beats them. Everybody does. So So at some point, if he keeps it up, or maybe he's going to take his 10 million, 20 million, 30 million and go home undefeated. I don't know, but people that judge people that have never put on their gloves, it's just remarkable.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting event moving forward. I think they got to do a big fight next, and they got Holyfield, and Triller's doing a lot of really interesting things in the future. So, of course, Teofimo Lopez is fighting on Triller. That's coming up pretty soon. So they're mixing in some big name, real champions in boxing amongst these guys with big social media following. So it'll be very interesting. But recently, last night, Edgar Berlanga, he was at the Fifth Street Gym a couple months ago, and last night he continued his winning streak, 17-0. Didn't get the first round knockout, actually went the distance. I don't know if you were able to catch any of that.
I just saw it. I reported it. I saw it this morning.
But it was, what did you think about that? Nicholson was incredibly tough, but probably a good experience for Berlanga.
Good experience for everybody. That kid should Nicholson take pride in the fact that he's the first guy taking the distance. The other kid should take pride in the fact that he can go the distance and still come out on top. I think it's a great experience for everybody. Great to watch. You're waiting the whole time. Is he going to catch him? At least that's what I was on the edge of my seat waiting. It didn't happen, but it held me to the end. So I think he's a great kid. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think this will inspire him and encourage him to train even harder and actually perform better. And he's another one. They're learning on the job. You got to give these guys a chance. Think about it. The NFL is the biggest sport in the United States. Imagine the third NFL show. I don't think it was such a big deal. I don't think they had robots from Fox and music and all the stuff they have now that we love.
Yeah.
It takes time. Everyone, there's no overnight success.
Yeah.
So Berlanga's going to have a chance. He's pretty soon he's going to be 22-0. He's going to fight for the title, and you're going to see him against really talented guys, and you're going to know what he's got. And Triller's going to have their 5th show and their 10th show, and they have every opportunity to grow their fan base. And if people don't like it, they won't watch, and Triller will go away. It's very simple. But everyone can stop complaining and just either watch it if you want to or don't.
Exactly. And one question I did want to ask you, as from a trainer's perspective, Berlanga's performance last night, obviously I thought he looked very, very good, but he did take some big shots at times, showed that he had a good chin. If you were in his corner, after that fight, what were some things that you might pick out for him to work on?
I love defensive drills. I love having a very weaker, smaller fighter going against a bigger fighter, where the little one can just do offense and the big one can just do defense, to the point where he can slip everything. I love doing the sticks, the foam sticks. I love defensive drills. So I think like Canelo has evolved. His defense has really evolved. And I think that's per his coaches. So I think that if they spend their time doing that, he's not going to lose his power. He's only going to get better. His timing's going to get better. His speed's going to get better. But that's just me. He's not my fighter. They're doing a great job. They have an undefeated fighter. I'm sure he's making good money. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, exciting guy to watch going forward in boxing. Amazing prospect. Soon to be a contender, I think, fighting for a title in the next year or so. And, just a guy to keep your eye on. And closing things out, I just want to touch on, last night you were at the PFL event, one of your guys, Lazar. A lot of good things happening in MMA. The UFC opened up last night again with record crowds, like 15, 20,000, which hasn't happened in a while. It's great to see that atmosphere. So things are starting to come back. PFL is rolling, UFC is rolling. MMA landscape seems to be chugging along here. And it's exciting times, right, to get fans back in and get your fighters around that crowd.
We have no one to thank but Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. He opened it up early, and now the fans are there. And if according to the rest of the world, everybody that was at the UFC tomorrow should be on their way out, should be dying. But it's going to turn out they're not going to die. They're young, healthy people that enjoyed themselves last night. I love watching it at home. The PFL is another quality event, but in New Jersey, they act like it's the Black Plague. They had me under quarantine for 4.5 days. The most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But it's a very nice event, very professional, big purses, which with guys that aren't very famous have an opportunity to win $1 million. So everybody's got their pros and cons. Nobody does anything perfect, but everything is moving along. Last night there was Shogun fights on TV. There was the UFC on TV. There was boxing on TV. There was a rerun of boxing on Showtime. Fight sports are on TV constantly, and I couldn't be any happier. I'm super excited. It's great. So for me, it's my job and my passion and my hobby and my friends and my social life all rolled in one. So I was ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. Like you said, there were so many fights last night, so many great fights, ton of violence on the UFC card. I can't wait for boxing, UFC, MMA as a whole. It's good times in the fight game. Hope you guys enjoyed this little update from us here at 5th Street. I'm Pat here with Dino. We're signing off. See you guys.
Ciao for now.
The Pod Matrix.